They give you a name that isn't yours, that it's printed on a laminated card, clipped to the left breast pocket of a jacket you've never worn before. The name is common. Forgettable. That's the point. You rehearsed it in a bathroom mirror for 11 days until it stopped sounding like a word at all. Until it became reflex. Until the face in the mirror started answering to it. The city is cold when you arrive. Not dramatically cold, not the kind that makes good metaphors. Just cold in the way of a place that doesn't care whether you're there or not. 14 degrees Celsius. A gray Tuesday in a gray month. You carry one bag. The agency told you to bring only what a man in your cover story would own. So the bag is light. A few shirts. A phone registered to a name that isn't yours either. A watch that costs $62, because the man you're supposed to be doesn't own anything expensive. Not yet, the building you enter for the first time is unremarkable. For stories of tinted glass and poured concrete on the edge of an industrial district. There's a sign above the entrance, but you've been trained not to look at signs too long. Looking at signs too long is something tourists do. You're not a tourist. You're a mid-level logistics coordinator for a regional shipping company that doesn't fully exist. You have pay stubs. You have a rental history. You have a reference from a manager in a city you visited exactly once. You are, on paper, completely real. The first week is the coldest, not because of the weather. Because of the silence. The organization you've infiltrated, and you won't use that word again, even in your own head, because walls absorb language, operates on routine. Everyone arrives between 7:40 and 7:55 in the morning. Nobody explains this. There are no posted hours. You learn it by watching. You learn everything by watching, which means for the first week, you are extraordinarily still. The office floor is open plan. 31 desks arranged in rows of no particular logic. The ventilation system runs constantly, a low mechanical hum that sits just below conversation. By Wednesday of the first week, you stop hearing it. By Friday, you'd notice its absence more than its presence. You are introduced to 4 people by first name only. You remember all 4. You remember everything, because you have to, because you cannot write things down, not the real things, not yet. The man at the desk adjacent to yours is named Gregor. He's been here 9 years. You can tell by the way he moves through the space, not ownership exactly, but a kind of earned invisibility. He doesn't look up when new people enter. He doesn't need to know who arrives. He already knows who matters. You are not yet someone who matters. That's exactly where you need to be. Month 3 that you've been invited to lunch twice. Both times by people at your level, people who are also, in their own way, being watched. You understand that lunch is not social. Lunch is assessment. You order what the others order. You drink what the others drink. You laugh at the right moments, not loudly. Laughter here is measured, used sparingly, like a resource. You file your first real report on a Thursday night, from a parking garage 2 kilometers away, using a phone that you will destroy before morning. The report is 3 pages. Your handler, a careful, compact woman who you've met in person exactly twice, says it's good. What she means is that it's sufficient. Good, in this work, is a word that means you haven't endangered anyone yet. You feel something close to pride. You note the feeling. You set it aside. Pride is the thing that gets people killed or burned or simply relocated to a desk job in a city with worse weather. By month 6, you have learned the unspoken architecture of the organization. There are rules that are never written. Violations that are never named. The first unwritten rule is this: you do not ask where things come from. You process them. You route them. You sign forms that reference other forms that reference numbers that connect to nothing visible. This is not carelessness. This is engineering. The entire system is built so that each person handles one clean piece of something that is, in aggregate, not clean at all. You understand this. You were briefed on it. What the briefing could not prepare you for is the mundanity of it. The fluorescent normalcy. The birthday cake's in the break room for a man named Dimitri who's been routing fraudulent cargo manifests for 11 years and who makes excellent, genuine small talk about football. You eat the cake, you write it in your report. Even the cake. Your handler tells you the cake is not operationally relevant. You tell her everything is operationally relevant. She pauses for 2.3 seconds before agreeing with you. You've started counting pauses. Phase 2 begins not with a ceremony but with an email. 14 months in, you receive a reassignment. Lateral, technically. But the new desk is closer to the window. The new role involves access. Not full access, nobody has full access, that's another piece of the engineering, but enough. Enough to see one more layer down. Enough to understand that the layer beneath the layer you've been watching is significantly more serious than anything in your original briefing. You sit with that for a night. You are alone in a furnished apartment that has no photographs on the walls, because the man you're pretending to be isn't sentimental, and you are not allowed to be sentimental either. The apartment costs €890 a month, paid by an account you cannot access directly. You own nothing in this city. You have built nothing here except a reputation that belongs to someone who doesn't exist outside. The city is still 14 degrees. It's been 14 degrees for what feels like months. Maybe it has been. You write the second report. It's 11 pages. Your handler reads it over a secure line at 2 a.m. and says, very quietly, we didn't know this part. That sentence, 4 words, is the closest thing to validation you will receive in the next 14 months. You replay it occasionally, the way a person might revisit a photograph. Year 2 that you are now trusted enough to be present in rooms where certain things are decided. Not the final rooms. You understand there are rooms behind those rooms, and possibly rooms behind those, but rooms that matter. You sit in these rooms and you listen and you remember and you give nothing away, because giving nothing away is the only skill that has never once failed you. There is a man here, you will not use his name, even in your memory, who sits at the head of every meeting. He doesn't speak often. When he does, it is precise, brief, and somehow final. You've studied him for 7 months. You understand, with a certainty that goes beyond professional intuition, that he is the reason you were sent here. You also understand, with that same quiet certainty, that he has been studying you for approximately the same length of time. The realization doesn't arrive as a confrontation. That's the thing about this kind of work that nobody outside it truly grasps. The dramatic moment you've been bracing for, the moment where someone slides a photograph across a table, or a door locks behind you, or a voice says your real name, that moment, if it comes at all, comes much later. What comes first is atmosphere. A shift in temperature. Not literal, though the building does run colder in the upper floors, consistently 3 degrees below the main floor, which you've always found telling. What shifts is the social temperature. The way Gregor no longer greets you in the morning. The way the man who used to offer you coffee stopped offering, without explanation, without incident, on a specific Wednesday in October. You mark the date. You mark everything. You do not tell your handler immediately, because telling her immediately would require admitting something you're not ready to name. Instead, you go home and you sit in the apartment with no photographs and you think about the shape of what's happening. And the shape is this: they know something. Not everything. If they knew everything, the climate would be different. But they know the shape of a question they can't yet answer, and the shape of that question is you. Year 2, month 9 that you have not slept more than 5 hours consecutively in 11 weeks, this is not dramatic. Operatives before you have gone longer. It's simply a fact that your body is now cataloging alongside other facts, that you've had 17 separate conversations with your handler this month, a record, that you've filed reports of declining length as the information becomes harder to extract without exposure, that you've begun a particular habit of testing your own cover story during idle moments, reciting childhood memories that aren't yours, tracing the invented geography of a life you've been inhabiting long enough that it sometimes overlaps uncomfortably with the one you actually lived. You have not spoken to anyone from your real life in 4 months. The protocol is 6-week intervals at maximum. You've exceeded the protocol. Your handler says this is not unusual. You don't believe her. The erosion is gradual, which is why it's effective. Nobody takes anything from you outright. What happens is subtler. You stop reaching for certain things, the small rituals that were yours before this started. The particular way you used to make coffee in the morning. The kind of music you played while driving. These things aren't forbidden. They're simply no longer appropriate for the person you've become, and the person you've become is, increasingly, the only person available. There was someone, before this assignment, that you called on difficult nights. You won't elaborate on who. The calls stopped, not because of a single conversation, but because there were too many calls where you said I can't talk about it, and eventually the other person ran out of patience for a door that never opened. You understood this, even as it was happening. Understanding does not prevent things. You are 41 years old. You have the bearing of someone older. You have the eyes, a colleague once said, a real colleague, from before, of someone who has stopped expecting things to be different from what they are. That was meant as a compliment. Month 31, the shattering is quiet. Erosion is gradual, which is why it's effective. Nobody takes anything from you outright. What happens is subtler. You stop reaching for certain things, the small rituals that were yours before this started. The particular way you used to make coffee in the morning. The kind of music you played while driving. These things aren't forbidden. They're simply no longer appropriate for the person you've become, and the person you've become is, increasingly, the only person available. There was someone, before this assignment, that you called on difficult nights. You won't elaborate on who. The calls stopped, not because of a single conversation, but because there were too many calls where you said I can't talk about it, and eventually the other person ran out of patience for a door that never opened. You understood this, even as it was happening. Understanding does not prevent things. You are 41 years old. You have the bearing of someone older. You have the eyes, a colleague once said, a real colleague, from before, of someone who has stopped expecting things to be different from what they are. That was meant as a compliment. Month 31, the shattering is quiet. You are in a meeting, one of those rooms that matters, and the man you've spent 2.5 years studying says something. Not to you directly. He says it to the room, casually, in the context of a broader discussion about logistics adjustments. He uses a phrase, a specific, procedural phrase, that is drawn directly from a memo that exists only in your reports. A classified memo. Internal. Accessible to fewer than 6 people in the world, that he doesn't look at you when he says it. That's the part that stays with you. He doesn't look at you, because looking at you would be an acknowledgement. And an acknowledgement would be a reaction, and he has never once reacted to anything he didn't choose to react to. He knows. He has known. For how long, you cannot determine. Long enough to have let you continue, which means the information you've been providing has served, in some capacity, his purposes as well as yours. You have been, for an indeterminate period, a double instrument in a system you thought you were studying from the outside. There is no outside, there never was an outside. You finish the meeting. You take notes. You shake 2 hands at the door. You walk down 4 flights of stairs instead of using the elevator, because you need the time. The extraction is procedurally clean. Your handler uses the word extraction in her report. You use the word leaving. Neither is entirely accurate. What happens is a gradual reduction. Your access is quietly curtailed, your desk is quietly reassigned, and then on a specific morning, your keycard simply does not work. There is no scene. There is no confrontation. The building continues to hum. The ventilation system continues its low, mechanical note. You are driven to a transit point. You are debriefed for 3 days in a room that is, fittingly, cold. You answer every question completely. You reconstruct every conversation, every shifted temperature, every morning when Gregor stopped looking up. At the end of the 3rd day, your handler, the careful, compact woman, tells you the operation produced actionable intelligence. She tells you it was a success, with caveats. She uses the word caveats without elaborating on what the caveats are, and you've been in this work long enough to understand that the caveats are significant, and that you will not be told what they are. You fly home under your real name. It fits strangely. 6 weeks later, you are walking past a pharmacy in a city that is yours. It's raining. The temperature is 11 degrees. You are carrying an umbrella that was purchased for this purpose, and a coffee that was purchased because you wanted it, because this is the kind of decision you are allowed to make now. You think about the building with the tinted glass, you think about the man who did not look at you, you think about the 31 desks and the ventilation hum and the birthday cake for Dmitri, who was not, as far as you will ever know, aware of anything irregular, and you understand, standing in the rain with a coffee you chose yourself, that the operation did not end. It simply proceeded without you. The organization recalibrated. The man redistributed his trust to a new geometry of people. Someone, somewhere, received a laminated card with a common name. They rehearsed it in a bathroom mirror. They packed a light bag. They walked into a cold city that did not care whether they arrived. The system required one adjustment. It required none at all, and somewhere, in a parking garage 2 kilometers from a building you'll never enter again, there is a ghost of you, the you that filed 11-page reports at 2 a.m., the you that ate cake and counted pauses and learned to breathe without showing it, and that ghost is still watching, still noting the temperature, still waiting to see who looks up, and who doesn't. That ghost will be there longer than you will. That ghost was always the point. End.